So before we get into the segment I have planned for you guys today, I do want to address that I have heard the cries and the pleas for some local true crime stuff. I finally posted something about it today. If I get any response, if I get any leeway, if somebody wants to talk about what they've been through, I will be happy to make a segment on it. But that being said, I want to be very careful about how I do this, because my intention with this channel is always to call attention to the victims and not the perpetrators. Obviously, you know, when it comes to people like John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy, they're big names. We have all heard of them. They're very popular in pop culture. They're very present, and they still affect everyday life and how we, moving forward, have processed crime scenes and other things. When it comes to local crime, these are people that I know. So, that live in my town. And I would not want to do anything that I felt negatively impacted their story, because it's very difficult. So, this may be something that I cannot just put up in a week's time. It's not something I can just do research on and pop it on a video. I would have to talk to the victims' families. I would have to go through a process with them and make sure that they're okay with the way the segment is going. I would be giving them editing rights. I would be giving them first preview. So it would be something that I would have to go through them with. It's not just something I can just throw on a screen and call it a day. That being said, I have officially made the first move today and reached out to at least one person I know has been the victim of a crime. I am waiting on her response. But my other idea is that if I do this, because I do make money off of my YouTube channel, that maybe working with a vendor that creates merchandise of some sort and making a deal where they get a good portion of the profits, but the other half that would be going to me in a contract deal to promote the merchandise, I would be donating to a fund. Or just taking donations directly to that fund. So essentially setting up something like a GoFundMe for the time being. And donating it to the Cold Case Foundation, a reward that is being offered for information for somebody who's been the victim of an unsolved murder, or the loved ones of the victim, or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or even foster care. Something that I would work, obviously with the families I'm working with, I would work with them on deciding where they would like those funds to go. So that is where we are with that. Moving on into today's story, and also I will keep you updated on that as I know more, or whether or not a decision is made, or if I can even move forward with it, because if I don't have anybody to interview, there's not really a whole lot I can do with it. Moving on to today's story, we're going to be talking about Skylar Neese, Sheila Eddy, and Rachel Shoaf. Skylar Annette Neese was an American teenage girl who disappeared from her home in Star City, West Virginia around midnight on July 6, 2012. Neese's body was found on January 16, 2013 in Wayne Township, Greene County, Pennsylvania. Neese was murdered by two of her high school best friends, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf. On January 3rd, 2013, Shoaf confessed to authorities that she and Eddy planned and carried out Skylar's murder. Shoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder on May 1st, 2013, and was sentenced to 30 years in prison with eligibility for parole after 10 years. Eddy pleaded guilty to first-degree murder on January 24th, 2014, and was sentenced to life in prison with eligibility for parole after 15 years. Neese's disappearance led to West Virginia's legislation that made changes to the Amber Alert missing child alert system. On July 5th, 2012, Neese returned to her family's Star City, West Virginia apartment after working a shift at Wendy's. Her apartment complex's surveillance video shows Neese left the apartment via her bedroom window at 12:30 a.m. on July 6th and got into a sedan with Rachel Shoaf and Sheila Eddy. Neese's father said she did not take her cell phone charger, her window was left open, and that she planned on coming home. And in hindsight, all evidence points to she did essentially intend to come home. I don't think she, had any idea that she wouldn't be returning home. Give me just a second. I'm so sorry. Neese was initially considered by law enforcement authorities to be a runaway. That's always where they go first, is runaways. And an Amber Alert was not immediately issued in a connection with her disappearance. I don't know that the Amber Alert, even if it had been issued immediately, would have helped in her situation. Because although she didn't run away, essentially the only people that knew where she was weren't exactly going to come forward with any information. I don't think it would have scared the girls into complying. I don't think... It just seems that neither of these girls really had any remorse for what they had done. They were just tired of being friends with her. So I don't think it would have scared the girls into, coming forward and saying, oh, yeah, she went out with us, or anything else. I truly do not believe that in this situation an Amber Alert any sooner would have helped. They might have found the body sooner, but that little girl was dead the moment she left her apartment, and that is unfortunate. It would not have helped her. But I understand where the frustration of it not being taken seriously came in. An early tip indicated that Neese had been seen in North Carolina, but the Star City Police Department determined that the person spotted was not Neese. Skylar's parents posted flyers about their missing daughter in the Montgalia County region. Police determined that the unknown sedan in which Neese was last seen belonged to Eddy and interviewed her. Eddy admitted to picking up Neese, but stated that she had dropped her off an hour later. The FBI and the West Virginia State Police joined the search for Skylar on September 10th, 2012, and began interviewing Skylar's school friend. The break in the case came when Shoaf admitted plotting with Eddy to kill Skylar. I don't know how you just casually say, yeah, we planned to murder our high school BFF. I just feel like when they do these interviews, are these people really just casually being like, yeah, we did it. I planted a bomb in their car and then said, screw it, and set it off. I guess if you have no remorse, I could see that. If you have no remorse, I could fully see that. It's kind of messed up. It's not kind of messed up. It is messed up. The motivation Shoaf gave for the murder was they didn't like her and, quote, didn't want to be friends with her anymore, end quote. You could just stop being friends with somebody. In case y'all were wondering, you don't have to kill them. It's like when you hear those cases about, husbands and wives that murder their spouses. I'm like, y'all could have just gotten a divorce. I mean, you're right, murder is probably cheaper, I guess. Not really, because then you got to pay for all the lawyers and stuff. But, either way, you would be paying for lawyers. So, just get a divorce. We don't have to commit felonies to get rid of our spouses.
You have one of those.
Right, babe?
What, babe?
You don't have to commit murder to get rid of your spouse.
I mean...
Baby.
No, you don't.
the last time I bring her into one of these. David Neese stated that these two girls were among his daughter's best friends and that Eddy had even helped the family by distributing missing person flyers. That to me says sociopath. Because, like, how are you going to be like, yeah, I know where your daughter's body is because I put it there. But here, let me help you distribute these missing person flyers in hopes we might find her. It's not okay. It's not normal. It's there's just, oh god, this whole case was just like a mess to me, but I don't get paid to solve them, so I just can't imagine being like, yeah, you're my best friend, but I don't want to be friends with you anymore, but I'm going to continue telling you that you're my best friend so that I can, like, that's the thing, is like, at some point, and I might have that in here, but in case I don't, you're going to hear it anyway. At some point, Skylar even knew that they didn't want to be friends with her anymore, and she made comments about, like, oh yeah, I loved hanging out with you guys too, like sarcastic-ish that I would post because petty. And, like, she knew these girls didn't want to be her friend anymore. So, like, you could have just said, you know what, like, we're just going our separate ways, and we don't want to be friends with you anymore. And I know, like, in high school that's, like, devastating. Actually, I don't know, because I didn't have friends in high school. But I get that that's, like, heartbreaking to a 16-year-old, but, like, you could have just said, we don't want to be friends with you anymore. We are feeling like you just don't fit in with us, whatever, like, yeah, she would have been heartbroken, but, like, at least she'd be alive and these two girls wouldn't be in prison. Although, honestly, I feel like if anybody really belonged in prison, it was Shoaf. It was Rachel. Damn Rachel's. Because she did not seem to express any kind of guilt or remorse at what she had done. After her confession, Shoaf led investigators to Skylar's body. On March 13th, 2013, U.S. Attorney General William J. Eilenfeld II issued a press release stating that a body found in Wayne Township, Greene County, Pennsylvania, on January 16th, 2013, had been identified as the body of Skylar Neese. Skylar's body was found less than 30 miles away from her home. The other thing I think that was, like, a big deal about this was that they crossed state lines to dispose of the body, which, I mean, immediately makes it a federal case, because can't do that. Like, were you trying not to get caught? Was that the plan? Like, why did you cross state lines? That's what I don't fully understand. On May 1st, 2013, Shoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. According to the court transcript, Shoaf said that she and Eddy picked up Neese in Eddy's car. The girls drove to Pennsylvania, got out of the car, and began socializing. At a pre-arranged time, yeah, you heard me correctly, these two high school girls planned this. They arranged for a time. They brought the weapons with them. There was no, like, second guessing. There was no going back, apparently, because they were just like, yeah, it's time. It's 7 o'clock. Check your calendar. So, like, they fully went into this when they picked her up, knowing that they were going to murder her. This reminds me of, like, that cheerleader's mom who was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my kid on this team, and that includes trying to murder the head cheerleader. High school is not that serious. I should know. It sucked for me. But it's not the end of the world, and And, like, just, I don't understand how you can pick up a 16-year-old girl and say, you know what, we're going to take her to the woods and we're going to... What was the thought process? Like, how do you plan something like that and not, like, chicken out? You're children. The teens attempted to bury Skylar's body, but were unable to do so and instead covered the body with branches. The court transcripts indicates that other students overheard conversations between Shoaf and Eddy about the murder plot. So they weren't even, like, trying to hide it. They were just talking about it in, like, you know, French class, like, we should murder Skylar. Like, and the thing is that I think if these students had truly thought that these girls were serious and had taken it to an authority figure, it could have been prevented. The unfortunate thing is that kids are kids, and they don't want to think that their friends have the ability to unalive their other friends. You know, like, you don't want to believe that. You don't want to believe that children are capable of taking the life of another child. But unfortunately, that is what happened here. And I'm sure some of those students probably felt guilt when they later found out that they actually did go through with it because they didn't tell anyone. It is not their fault, and it is important to express that here. They failed to report it, mistakenly believing that the girls were joking. According to Shoaf's plea agreement, she pleaded guilty to murder in the second degree by unlawfully, feloniously, willfully, maliciously, and intentionally causing the death of Skylar Neese by stabbing her and causing fatal injuries. Which I feel like was just a lot of, like, similar words because they all kind of mean the same thing. It was an illegal act that was done with nefarious intentions. There's a lot of added extra adjectives in this description of what she pled guilty to rather than just saying it. In the plea agreement, the state of West Virginia recommended a sentence of 20 years incarceration, which I feel like was not enough. I don't think it was enough. I think they both should have gotten more time than what they did. But they didn't, and that's despicable to me. Rachel Shoaf expressed remorse and apologized to the Neeses, her own family, and God during her sentencing. Shoaf's family has also issued a public apology for her actions through their lawyer. Like, I think we all kind of forget, too, that there are victims within the perpetrators' families as well. Nobody wants to be the one that has to stand in court and listen to their child release a statement saying they murdered their best friend. And it is important to understand that they are victims of the crime as well. I just feel that that's really necessary to say. So, yeah. On September 4th, 2013, West Virginia prosecutors publicly identified Eddy as the second alleged perpetrator of the murder of Skylar and announced that she would be tried as an adult. Eddy was indicted by a grand jury on September 6, 2013 on 1 count of kidnapping, 1 count of first-degree murder, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. She pleaded not guilty. She was guilty. They were all guilty. The date of the trial was originally set for January 28th, 2014. Facing the prospect of additional charges from Pennsylvania authorities, Eddy pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. She expressed no remorse but was sentenced to life in prison with mercy. Under West Virginia law, she is eligible for parole after 15 years. Pennsylvania authorities did not file charges as per the plea deal. Following her guilty plea on May 1st, 2013, on February 25th, 2014, Shoaf received a sentence of 30 years in prison and will be eligible for parole after 10 years. Eddy originally was held in a facility for juveniles after her arrest. Both women, now in their 20s, are currently incarcerated at the Lakin Correctional Center in Mason County. An Amber Alert was not issued in Skylar's disappearance because the circumstances did not meet all four criteria for an alert to be issued. 1. A child is believed to be abducted. 2. The child is under 18. 3. The child may be in danger of death or serious injury. 4. There is sufficient information to indicate the Amber Alert would be helpful. A waiting period of 48 hours had to elapse before a teenager could be considered missing. A West Virginia state legislator from the Neese Family Home District introduced a bill called Skylar's Law to modify West Virginia's Amber Alert plan to issue immediate public announcements when any child is reported missing and in danger. Regardless of whether the child is believed to have been kidnapped, opinion columns appeared in both West Virginia and national media in support of Skylar's Law, some of which also acknowledge criticism and drawbacks of the legislation. On March 27, 2013, the West Virginia House of Delegates approved Skylar's Law with a 98-0 vote. On April 12, 2013, the West Virginia Senate unanimously passed the law but made minor technical changes to the bill, which the House of Delegates voted to accept on the same day. West Virginia Governor Earl Ray Tomblin signed the legislation into law in May of 2013. And that is the very sad story of Skylar Neese. And it just goes to show that even children have the ability to plan and carry out a murder, and that is exceptionally sad. Next week I plan on moving on to historical women, female murderers, historic murders, murderesses. So we will be covering Madame Lalaurie, I think is where I'm starting. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, please be kind to others. Be cautiously kind to others. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And make good choices. Bye.